Hey friends, welcome to the Beyond Files.
Ready to question reality? You're in the right place.
Let's dive in.
So if your houseplants are capable of sensing telepathic communication and participating in telepathic communication, it's been shown that if you have houseplants that have been in your life for even a few months, if you put EEGs on those and then you send the person who takes care of those out of the house, send them some distance away, the moment they come within 2,000 meters or 2 kilometers from the home, the plants all perk up. They can feel the person coming from 2 kilometers away. And so if plants are that sentient, that they are that connected, even in a pot in your house, totally disconnected seemingly from nature, if that thing is feeling 2 kilometers of space and then waiting for the excitement of being like, the person who loves me, the person who planted me is coming back. How phenomenal. Like,
I've let a lot of plants die.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know that the grass screams when you cut it?
No.
The grass screams. And that's why it emits that smell. That's a defense mechanism. So the smell of fresh cut grass is actually them suffering.
Do you now take care of all the plants, though, in the salon I work at?
Do you talk to them?
I do. I send them Reiki and I water them. And everybody was like, how are these plants like growing and producing more things? And they're like, because Rachel's taking care.
Sing to them, talk to them. They're sentient beings. Trees are sentient beings. May not have a face, but it's still a sentient living being.
You're gonna make the best dirty ghost? You're gonna make the best dirty ghost? Whoa. Oh my god. Holy shit. Is he okay? Are you okay? Alles gut?
I'm not yelling out. No, I might call the police, but I'm definitely not going, are you okay?
I would book ass out of there.
Have you seen the videos on here talking about real vampires in New Orleans? Do I think that they are real? Well, my name is Rachel. I'm from New Orleans, and I'd like to be the first to tell you that not only are they real, but I was personally abused and manipulated in a New Orleans vampire cult. Are the actual immortal blood-sucking creatures from literature real? I don't know. But what is real might actually be worse. New Orleans has always had a prominent vampire culture, ranging from casual Anne Rice fans to full-on sanguine cults. And one of the most well-known vampire groups in New Orleans is an absolute machine for narcissistic, emotional, sexual, and financial abuse. You may recognize this, but you may not be familiar with Father Sebastian, the man behind the saber-tooth cult / endless night vampire balls that take place in New Orleans and other cities around the country. As a young autistic person, I found myself drawn to the goth community, looking for individuals with shared interests. I unfortunately fell for Father Sebastian's manipulative tactics and became exposed to some of the disturbing practices that take place inside of his cult. Misogynistic rituals and claims of psychic vampirism. Unfortunately, I was groomed into his inner circle through sexual advances, breadcrumbing, love bombing, and other narcissistic abuse tactics. Some of the abuse and downright bigotry I witnessed included things like him telling me about these dinner parties that he had, wherein if you were invited, you had to have sex, it wasn't an option to say no, and him telling my Indigenous ex-husband and my Indigenous children how Indigenous people deserve to be colonized because they were uncivilized. There are countless other examples of racism and misogyny that I could recount probably in other videos on their own. Now, I know I'm just one person, but there's been many allegations of sexual abuse and other things against Father Sebastian over the last 30 years, and his response has always been to double down and try and discredit anyone who speaks out. When I began to realize the degree of absolutely heinous behavior that was normalized in Father Sebastian's cult, I reached out to other women who were involved and quickly realized that I wasn't alone in my experiences. When I tried to walk away from this, once I figured out who he was and what was going on to its extent, I was threatened, and another one of his inner circle, my now former business partner, tried to sabotage my small business. There's a lot that could be said, and I'm more than open to answering any questions and describing more of this in detail in other videos if anyone wants to hear it. Like I said, many of his victims have tried to come forward in the past, and they're almost always silenced by his sycophantic followers. Again, I can't speak to whether mythical vampires walk these streets, but the fake ones, complete with comically sinister fake names, are just as predatory and have a talent for manipulating and abusing and grooming women who are just looking for a place to belong. I am speaking about this now because I know that it has continued to happen, and I cannot live with myself knowing that if I stayed silent, he could continue to hurt other people.
Well, we know cults are real. Vampire cults are probably real.
Yeah, any way to just get vulnerable people to join and be manipulated.
It's unfortunate. I actually had a friend of mine that dated a guy that thought he was a vampire, and he used to fight her, and she would bruise terribly, and I'd go, do you think this is okay? I mean, I don't think this is okay. So I can see the narcissism, and it's just strange.
There's definitely energy vampires.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. Lots of books I've read on energy vampires.
And I do think the folklore is real. I think there are real vampires, but I'm not so sure that they're running around in cults. And if they are, well,
they don't want to deal with crap like that. Probably, especially if they're old. Yeah, that shit's probably so boring to them.
Just in case you needed another reason not to go into the woods alone at night, I've got you covered. Crawlers are typically pale, long-limbed humanoid figures. There have been crawler sightings all over the world. Here are some first-hand encounters of crawler sightings. User Quentin Snark told this story on the Crawler Sightings subreddit. My friends and I used to camp a lot in the El Dorado National Forest. We had a spot along the Sopiago Springs where we used to camp a lot. One weekend, we decided to go for a 3-day foraging camp. We brought in MREs in case we couldn't find anything, some guns, and some supplies to set up shelter, but that's about it. First night was chill. We cooked a bunch of crawdads and squirrel and slept fine. The next day, something felt off to me. When night fell, my friends went 200 yards or so up the stream to do some stuff, and I was alone in camp. The feeling got even stronger, so I built up the fire nice and big and grabbed a gun. I kept hearing faint voices from the woods in opposite directions of where my friends went. They were low, indistinct sounds, but they were creeping me out majorly, and my buddies had taken the only 2 flashlights. As I peered out into the darkness, I caught a glimpse of something moving 50 yards or so out in the trees. I snapped the rifle to my shoulder and got the scope on it. It was pretty dark, and the only light was from the fire, but I could see the outline of what I was aiming at. It looked human, but it was on all 4s, and its arms seemed a lot longer than they should. It stood a bit like an ape, but very low to the ground. I only saw it for a second before it loped off deeper into the woods. After I lost track of it, I heard light rustling in different directions around the camp, leaves scuffling, the occasional twig breaking. Always away from where my friends went, on the other side of the camp from their departure. I got the sense that whatever it was stalking me. I kept the fire high and was staying sharp looking out into the woods, but I didn't see it again. My buddies came back about 10 minutes later to find me. I was a paranoid wreck, glassing the tree line with a scope. I told them what happened and they got quiet, then told me the reason they came back when they did is they started hearing the same things I did over by where they were, and it spooked them. We spent the second night of our trip with a big-ass fire and 3 lookouts. Nobody slept that night. In the morning, we broke camp as quick as we could and hightailed it out of there. We never camped in that spot again. This next story is from user Hattori Hanzo Steel, who wrote, "Hello all, upon discovering this sub, I'm reminded of an encounter I had in April of this year in John Bryan State Park in Yellow Springs, Ohio. My boyfriend and I were walking down a trail towards a bridge. About halfway down, I saw a white woman with a bob haircut. She was wearing a yellow sweater and a black vest, and was crawling out of the water and up towards the bridge. She was on all 4s and came up and crossed the bridge. She wasn't wet. By the time we got to the bridge, she was already across and down the trail. She turned and saw us and I waved, but her face was completely expressionless. Once we crossed the bridge, we got further and further down the trail until I realized that we hadn't run into her or seen her at all. She wasn't that far ahead of us. We should have seen her or passed her. She was just gone. Upon realizing this, the hair on my body stood on end and the entire sound of the park went completely silent. I stopped my boyfriend and pointed out the silence. The wind stopped, the bugs stopped, hell, the sound of the water stopped. I've spent entire days at this park hiking the entire thing. I've never had an encounter like this. We turned around and left. Once we got back to the bridge, the sounds gradually returned, but I've never, ever in my life had an experience quite like that. This final story is a long one, but it's worth it. It's from user capable-AD8799. When I was 15 years old, I was part of a school trip to visit the country of Bhutan. Bhutan is an ancient country where the Western world has barely had any influence. We were traveling in a small group of about 20 people. Most of our group was sleeping at a hotel, but our tour guide invited us on a secret trip to a drinking establishment in town. We went on the trip and we met some girls. We went back to the hotel to hang out with the girls, and later that night, around 11 p.m., they asked us to walk them home. Little did we know, the walk would be about 4 miles in each direction. As we walked up the hill, the girls pointed out a shortcut path through the woods. They told us that because they had received blessings from local monks, we would be protected walking through the woods, but that when we returned, we should take the long way home. The reason that they gave us was that the woods were haunted. We laughed at their local superstition and we saw no strange sights on the way up. When we got to the destination, we spent a few minutes there before we left. My friend and I played lacrosse together in high school. He was stocky, strong, and altogether not a timid young man. We were both strong, confident, even cocky. Encouraging each other not to fear the darkness of the Himalayan night, we walked back down the mountain underneath the clear light of a waxing moon. When we reached the trailhead of the shortcut through the woods, I remembered and repeated the warning that the girls had given us. My friend, not a superstitious young man, joked that I was being a scaredy cat. I told him I was not scared, and I took point as we entered the woods. He followed behind and even attempted to scare me a few times by jumping on me. After about 20 minutes, we reached a clearing in the woods. As we did, I began to see strange lights floating in the trees. What came next was something I could have never expected or imagined. Across the clearing, bathed in the blue light of the moon, just standing there, was an upright naked figure. It stood about 5 feet tall, completely hairless, with gray skin and eyes illuminated by a soft yellow glow. I froze on the spot, petrified by what I was seeing and unsure if I could trust my eyes. My friend hid behind me, looking over my shoulder, and asked, "What the fuck is that?" As if in response to his question, the creature instantly sprang into motion. It fell onto all fours, snarled, and began walking backwards. It walked backwards toward a tree, and then, without breaking a step, walked backwards up the trunk of the tree and onto a horizontal branch which hung over the path and at the other end of the clearing. My friend took off sprinting into the woods and ran directly underneath the branch and into the darkness. Then I was left in the clearing, still paralyzed and without my friend, but not yet alone. For a few minutes I stood there, unsure what I was looking at. I began to pray every prayer I knew, and yet still the creature sat on the branch staring at me with its glowing yellow eyes. I got a long, good look at the creature and noticed its bulging pot belly and simultaneously emaciated figure. It looked exactly like a hungry ghost from Asian folklore. I had no choice but to walk towards the creature. I walked directly underneath the branch, looking up at the yellow eyes and snarling, dirty teeth. Saliva dripped from above onto the path below me. At every moment, I thought the creature would pounce down on me, but it didn't. I circled around the creature, keeping it in front of me, as I then backed away into the woods. I continued walking backwards until the clearing was long out of sight. I ran all the way back to the hotel room. Years later, I reached out to that friend to confirm the story and the details. He was able to confirm and said he never spoke of it afterwards to anyone else. It was one of those deeply confusing experiences that no one will ever be able to confirm or deny. It left a sliver of doubt in me that whatever we consider to be concrete reality is probably not so concrete. Science does not know everything. This was not a fictional story. This is a real anecdote about my life, and it haunts me to this day. As I wrote this story, bone-chilling fear took hold of me, and the same familiar tears of true horror began streaming down my face. I hope you enjoyed my tale. If you ever find yourself alone in the woods at night, maybe take the long way around. I read many stories of people seeing crawlers in trees, staring into their windows at night, even stories of people seeing crawlers attacking their chickens and other livestock. Have you ever encountered a crawler?
I just would like to know if the viewers can tell me, is there a difference between a crawler and a rake? Because I really don't know. Do you know?
I don't know.
They look very similar. Although I know the woman that came out of the water sounded different than
That sounded like some sort of
crazy haunted
spirit of
overnight.
maybe somebody who experienced a tragedy and is unsettled and maybe never had a proper burial or something.
Some ring shit.
Yeah. But those crawlers, when I learned about them, sometimes people act it's not real, but there's got to be some truth behind what's real and what's not. I think that they are around.
I think if enough people have seen them and described them all in the same ways, it's got to be something to it.
I never see one though.
Same here.
Figure out when to get that cousin you only see once a year, a neighbor, a coworker who brings you so much joy. But don't worry, we've got you covered with the best digital gifts you can easily buy online right now and get delivered instantly for those very last-minute gifts.
What the fuck is on with his mouth?
Now. He's an e-commerce writer for Rolling Stone.
It's the filter didn't work right.
Has been in my freezer for 37 years. And I was always told it was like a wedding cake top.
Adam Smith had been living in this apartment, taking care of his mother who passed away from cancer just days ago. He showed us a photograph of a wrap box that was in his freezer. He said his mother kept it inside their freezer for decades and told him to stay away from it. He opened it after she passed away.
There was a pink blanket, baby blanket. And when I reached down and touched it, and I could feel a foot, and I could see the baby's head with hair was still attached to it.
He's distraught thinking about the possibility that that child may have been his sister and what his mother may have done. Preliminary testing led investigators to believe the child was wearing clothes made in the mid to late 1960s and that he was younger than 1 year old when he died. The baby was never legally named, police say.
Wow.
That's messed up.
Yeah. I don't even think there's words for this.
Now, I don't believe in mythological. It's fun to listen to, but I don't usually believe in it like skinwalkers or changelings. But there's either something in the Starbucks coffee today, or I need to go check myself into a hospital. So, I was just sitting here, enjoying my coffee. I'm in a parking lot. And I was watching this little kid, and she looked kinda, I don't know what to say, scruffy. And she was like running around this car, and I'm like, I wonder if they live in that car, you know? And I was just thinking about it, and I was praying for them. And then, like, as I'm watching her run around this car, she goes in behind the car, and it looks like she, like, puts her hands over on the car on the other side and, like, drops down in behind the car. And so I'm like, oh, did she fall? And so, like, I'm really looking at that point, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but a wolf walked out from behind the car. Coyote, I mean, it was a small wolf, but it was like not a dog. If it was a dog, it was like a dirty ass husky that looked like it was not a husky. It was like grayish and bronzish and long hair, really long hair. And it was like shaking, and then it just kind of trotted through the parking lot. Had I been like not in such a state of shock, I would have this on video for you. So if you don't believe me, I totally get it. That's fine. You don't have to. But I swear, where'd the little girl go? Either she got eaten by the wolf thing, or she is the wolf thing.
First of all, I think it's hilarious that he called her scruffy. I feel like he's being legit.
I think it was a shapeshifter.
For sure. It's cool that he caught it. Well, that would have been better with the camera.
This whole country saw a demon face in the sky. Watch this. Check this out, y'all. You can see there's something in that storm. Watch this. This is not normal, y'all. I've never seen anything like this. Check this out. That's not normal. That's definitely a face. Obviously not a human face. Stay weird, y'all.
That's your boy.
I think it's either my boy or Albert Einstein on that show.
And her boy is Edgar Allan Poe.
We're both seeing Poe. Are you guys seeing Poe? I don't see Demon. see a Poe or a crazy Albert Einstein up there. I don't know. Not Tesla, no.
New Mandela effect just dropped. This is one I'm 100 billion% sure about, and I rarely feel that way. But this article is claiming that Yosemite Sam never said what in the tarnation. If you grew up watching cartoons like Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes, you know. You absolutely know. That was his catchphrase. He said it all the time. I was trying to think about it. I can remember images and clips of him saying that. And this article actually mentions the Mandela effect. It literally says, the widespread belief that Sam has always been shouting that phrase could arguably be classified as an example of the Mandela effect, a shared false memory. No, dude, I don't even believe that there's such a thing as a shared false memory. That sounds made up. And about something so incredibly specific, the chances of a bunch of people, individuals from different backgrounds, all remembering this are almost nothing. It's almost 0% possible that that is the case. You're not fooling me, bro. What's so wild about all of the examples of the Mandela effect is that, as far as I'm concerned, the most logical explanation is that somehow different timelines all bled together. And the fact that that's the most logical explanation that I've heard is interesting. Because otherwise, what is the explanation? Is the CIA doing massive psychological experiments on us? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, they've done it before. But with such odd and specific examples every time, I just don't buy it.
I remember it.
Yeah. I was going to say, a few years back, there was a huge trend that everybody said, one tarnation. And they made so many different memes and everything about it. And it was because of Yosemite Sam.
I grew up in the 70s. I remember watching this as a kid, and I totally 100% remember what in tarnation.
Make a wish. Make a wish. Make a wish.
And many more.
Right.
Woo!
Almost. Whoa. All right, Jackie. All right, here, honey. The girl's got to have a present. This is from me. Yeah.
Did you know? Should we have it?
Yeah. Jackie, here's its path.
Shut up.
No way. What?
That has not worked. That has not worked.
I just heard his voice one more time.
I didn't like the label that it said, this is scary as hell, because I thought it was kind of beautiful.
It's not scary.
No.
And if you lost a loved one and you start experiencing that, The worst thing to do is be scared because then it changes that energy frequency. So you have to be pretty accepting, especially when you're in a state of grieving. Like, be open to it because then it'll be easier for your loved ones to communicate with you.
Thanks for sticking around to the end with us. If you like what you see, can you hit the like, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell? It'll help us to climb up in the algorithm and just lets us know that you're out there and you're watching. Bye, guys.
Bye.